You have a great story. What parts of it do people usually skip over that you feel matters most and should be told?
All of the beginning, right? All of the, literally all of the beginning. I get a lot of, I've gotten this comment on social media when our product launched in Kroger. And it was, one of the comments was, I wonder how a small business like that got into a big retailer like Kroger. And it's like, we weren't an overnight success. We were years and years in the making. And it's so much persistence that it takes to get somewhere.
Welcome back to the Badass Women in Business podcast. Today's guest turned a backyard coffee roasting hobby into a nationally recognized brand with a mission bigger than coffee. Jillian Salinas is founder of Beach City Coffee, a company started in a Santa Monica shed and grew onto the shelves of Whole Foods, Walmart, Kroger, and hundreds of stores nationwide. But her story is more than just growth. Jillian has built Beach City Coffee around sustainability, community, and purpose. She helped pioneer 100% compostable, PFAS-free packaging in major retail, showing that environmentally responsible and business success can grow together. In this conversation, we talk about resilience, reinvention, and what it really takes to scale a purpose-driven brand without losing the heart behind it. Jillian, welcome to the Badass Women in Business podcast. And we would love to know what even started your journey in that backyard.
Yeah, thank you. So I have actually been roasting coffee for 17 years. I started back when I was in college with my now husband, Julian. So yes, we have the same name almost, Jillian and Julian. And we actually started with an old school popcorn popper, like one of those popcorn poppers with the open top. And we had a wooden dowel that we would use to mix the coffee beans, very unorthodox. But we loved it. And so we ended up getting an actual coffee roaster. And then we got a bigger coffee roaster. And then we got a bigger coffee roaster. And it was a 5-kilogram commercial coffee roaster. And we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. And we realized we had nowhere to put the coffee roaster and we definitely needed to move. And so we started looking and we ended up finding this tiny little shack of a house. It was 1 block in from the beach in Santa Monica, so that was amazing. But it was teeny. It was like 600 square feet, but it was perfect because it had a shed on the side, the perfect size for our coffee roaster. And so that is where we got our first cottage food license and began manufacturing Beach City Coffee. And as I got more into coffee roasting, I realized how underrepresented women were in coffee ownership and coffee roasting roles. And the other thing that really bothered me was how much waste there was in the industry, especially around packaging. It was really heartbreaking to see. And so I knew that not only could we have a lot of fun roasting coffee and building Beach City, but that we could actually make a difference. So yeah, that's really how we were born and started.
Love it. What got you into coffee in the first place? I know that roasting beans is an art. There is a form to it. I mean, people think about if they're poorly roasted or over roasted, you get that bitterness, but you're looking for sweetness, the body, and getting that nuttiness to the coffee bean. So I'm curious, what got you in? Were you always a coffee fan, or you just decided to experiment and then you figured out, oh, well, I'm kind of good at it?
Yeah. Well, okay. So my mom is a tea drinker and so is my dad. So I didn't get the coffee thing at home, but my now husband and I were actually high school sweethearts. So we've been together 22 years and his family drank coffee. So I would have sips of his and I ended up acquiring a taste for coffee. But I will give him credit. He's the one who got that popcorn popper and was like, yeah, let's do this. And our neighbors thought we were crazy. But yeah, that's like really how I got into it, was just, that acquired taste. And then at the time, this was back 17 years ago, there wasn't specialty grade coffee available in the grocery store. And there certainly wasn't fresh coffee available. The selection was pretty slim back then. And so we're like, oh, let's roast it ourselves. We can try like these different flavors and really try it fresh. And then once we had the fresh coffee, we realized like, oh, wow, this is a game changer. And then we started like our friends and family wanted it. And then we ended up starting to sell it to tech offices. My husband worked in a tech office. I did as well before I had my son. And then that was kind of like the perfect time to stop working at that tech office and build our business. And so it really took off with offices. We did really well for a really long time with all these offices until COVID hit and all the offices shut down. And so here I had this huge coffee roaster and no one to sell to. But then at the same time, you saw these grocery stores needing product. And so that's kind of when we thought, oh, okay, let's go for retail. And that was kind of the transition.
I've got two questions.
Yes.
One, because both you and your husband's initials are JS. Are your kids JS as well?
They're Jillian and no, I'm just kidding. No, Cole and Stella are our kids. No, J's.
I only say that my maiden name was Schleicher and we're all CS. So I was just curious if anyone else was as crazy as my parents. And then the secondary question is I really want to dive into both aspects of marketing. One, how did you go about and market to the offices when that was your primary audience? And number two, how did you then go after the big retailers and make sure that you got in front of the right people?
Yes. So with the offices, we really started with who we knew, right? So the company that I worked for, companies that friends worked for. And then we had a couple customers and we were able to go and we did a lot of coffee cuppings at these offices. I would reach out to like pretty much anyone on LinkedIn that would respond that was a CEO. And now I actually have a lot of really cool contacts on LinkedIn from that time, from these like random offices. But yeah, and we would say, because a lot of people haven't done a coffee cupping, which is more of an official way to test coffee. So we would go and do that for offices. But it was really a LinkedIn strategy, heavily centered around LinkedIn. And then when I wanted to go into retail, I used that exact same strategy because it worked so well for us. So we had a complete strategy and we actually targeted Whole Foods was our first retail target because that was my dream retailer and I knew they supported local businesses a lot. So I thought, okay, let's try. I didn't think that we would get in, but every sample I would, put my heart and soul into it. And but it was really LinkedIn and we would do like pretty much any person at Whole Foods that was willing to take a sample from me, I would send them one. And the goal was that they would, even if they weren't the buyer, they would then communicate to her. And so, and it worked out.
I love it because one, it is so gritty what you did. Like it's truly not the traditional route that people take because you create a product and then most of the time you'll hire a broker or you'll go through your network to get to the person that reps that store. But the fact that you almost organized your own like pop-ups and went straight to the source.
So I have to touch on, you mentioned the broker thing. So before I started Beach City Coffee, I actually started a cookie company earlier on in college. But the problem with the cookie company was that I couldn't manufacture it myself. It's a lot more stringent. And so I had to use a co-packer. And at the end of the day, that product, because I was using a co-packer and premium ingredients, because I really care about organic, it ended up being so expensive that I couldn't get any grocery store to buy it except for Air One. Like literally they were the only one. And it was just too expensive. And so when I went into coffee, one of the things that I was trying to do is to really keep our price low so that we can be competitive. And so I purposefully did not want to use brokers because they're adding an additional like 5 to 10% on top of my cost. And competing in this space is really hard, especially to be price competitive and not yet at full scale. And so I intentionally avoided brokers like at all costs and tried to do all my sales myself. But the like benefit of that is I think that I was a lot more powerful going into those rooms and I was competing against brokers selling other people's company, products versus me selling my own.
Yeah, so. there's a thing about sharing that passion that a broker is not going to have because they represent an entire portfolio of clients. So for sure.
Right. Yeah.
So you mentioned that, your husband was working in tech and so were you. At which point in time did your business, Beach City Coffee, stop feeling like a side project and started feeling like a real company?
I think that it really didn't feel like all that time that we were doing it from home. It was so like passion driven, and it wasn't, I think it really felt like a real business when we launched into retail. That's also when we became an LLC. Before that, we were running the business under his sole proprietorship. And so I think that was like the real game changer. Also, there's just like a whole lot more permitting and all this official stuff that you go through when you go into retail that I didn't have to do before. So I think that also like made it really real. And the scale of it, I guess, too.
For sure.
Yeah, because we launched in 61 stores to begin with. So that was kind of a lot, even just the one SKU, but it was a big learning curve.
Okay, so walk us through this, because 61 store at once, I imagine that they didn't just want one bag each. So we're talking about
yes.
A
lot
amount.
Of cases of coffee.
So
yes.
How did you scale that production from just, getting coffee to those professionals in offices to now having to balance that supply and demand?
So at the time as I mentioned, we had like our shed, we were doing it ourselves. And then for a time I had went and worked at a shared roastery. When we first got into Whole Foods, I thought, okay, I want to go and get our full like manufacturing facility. And I went and tried to do that, and I like failed miserably. I rented this place. It wasn't permittable. I didn't know that. And it just was so bad. The woman at the permitting office was like, it's never happening for you. And I was like, okay. And I really had to like take a moment and like accept that this was the wrong decision and pivot and like, okay, go back to that. So I went back to the shared roastery because that, I was able to have all the permitting and stuff. And we grew at that shared roastery until last year when we launched in additional retailers and we were able to get our own manufacturing facility. But yeah, so it was just kind of figuring out when did we have the scale, and then I thought we did and it didn't work out. So lots of pivots and stuff, but
I'm curious from a capital perspective. Have you guys been fully self-funded, or did you take outside money? Or talk a little bit more about why too.
Yes, we are completely bootstrapped. So we have funded the whole thing ourselves. And sometimes that's been to our own detriment, right? Like we're putting all of our savings into this, and it can make things more stressful too. But at the end of the day, I have full control over, if I want to keep compostable bags and fair trade organic coffee, I can do that. And I can really follow that vision. And I don't have anyone telling me like, no, that's too expensive. You can't do that. I feel like it's really helped kind of be able to push forward with our values. And so I think it's been hard, but I think it's going to work out in the long run. And it's nice to still have, control over what we're doing.
Yeah, that brand integrity is so important, right? And it's one of the things that gets diluted first. I do have another question, just because I do like coffee. Where do you source your beans from?
So we source from all over. I love coffee from Peru. Guatemala we use Guatemalan coffee for our Surfer Girl blend. It has those nice like tropical flavor, but all fair trade organic, all specialty grade. So typically cupping at above 84 points, which is like if you're like, it's like the top notch coffee. So
for listeners who are not coffee experts, what makes a truly good cup of coffee?
So I think the quality of your green beans, right? So having fresh coffee that's fresh from the farm, and then it's properly stored and sent here, and then it's freshly roasted. It matters. The roasting matters. How you profile your roast matters. And then also like how fresh are you having your coffee? That matters. So all those things matter. And then the other side of it, like how you brew it matters, right? So grinding fresh really helps. I think that's like the biggest change you can make in your coffee game to make it better is to grind your coffee beans fresh. Because then you really get to taste all that flavor.
I know that roasting can be tricky, like we said at the beginning, but how did you specifically develop your palate and learn what good roasting really means?
Yes. So this is interesting. So I have one of my coffee roasters that I hired early on is a Q grader. Mm-hmm. So, and that's like basically like a sommelier akin, like for wine for coffee is a Q grader. And so I like to joke that she has the book smarts and I have the street smarts just from doing it so long. And then I hired another roaster and I was explaining to him like what constituted a good like medium roast for us. And he's like, so how long have you been using the Force to roast coffee? He's a Star Wars guy. And I'm like, that's actually like a really good, we totally use the force. Like, I think you get used to it, and I can look at a coffee that we've roasted and I know, like, did they do it too long? I can look at it and see right off the bat. So yeah, it's just from like a lot of just forever doing it. And sometimes I'll go into like rooms with these like coffee guys that are really well educated in coffee, and I'm intimidated, and then I realize like, oh no, like I've been doing this just equally as long. I do know as much as them. Like, come on, Jillian, you got this. So
I love that. Why was having sustainable packaging important to you?
Yes. So I have been on a mission around our packaging forever. It's really what really bothered me the most about the coffee industry, especially like when I was in college, there was like Keurigs and stuff like that. So that was like always something I knew had to be one of our values, was better packaging. So I actually started with recyclable packaging because that was what was available at the time. But then I realized that my city didn't actually recycle the recyclable packaging that I have. So there's like these numbers, which I didn't even know about this until then. There's these numbers on the bottom of recyclables, which you actually have to look at because it identifies what your city recycles and doesn't. And so I learned that there's actually like this whole like, I guess you could call it like an epidemic of wish cycling, where people are thinking that they're recycling, but they're actually not because it's not recyclable. And so I immediately was like, okay, this is not the answer. And I was like, okay, I think compostable packaging would be much better, but I couldn't find it. So I spent so long looking for compostable bags. I did end up finding one, but it was only 60% compostable. You still had to remove the valve and the tin tie. But I thought, you know what, this is better. And I bet if I keep looking, I'll find what I want. So we went with the 60% compostable. And then I just kept looking and looking. And like a little over a year ago, I found 100% compostable bags. And so what that is it's a craft paper and a high barrier PLA, which is basically like a bioplastic made out of like sugar or something like that. So, but yes, so much better. And so you can actually see, like, if I've had the bag for over like 18 months, the bags start to literally like break down on me. So that did add another challenge to the mix, but it's also, really cool. And I feel much better not to be like contributing to all this waste. So.
How do you balance margins with your mission of sustainability? Because obviously it costs more. And right now we're in an economic unknown question mark to where,
yes.
People are spending a whole lot more money buying things and necessities and non-necessities. So I'm curious, how do you balance that?
Yes. So I think that is one of the benefits of us manufacturing for ourselves, is we're able to keep our other costs really lean. So that way we're able to have fair trade organic coffee, compostable packaging, and it still be affordable at the end of the day. I do think that consumers are more knowledgeable than ever, so that the things that I'm like talking about, they really value that. And there is value in that. But at the same time, more people will buy organic if it's more affordable. And so I try to keep our costs as low as possible with the goal of doing more volume. But yeah, it's a total balancing act.
You talk about having a community first lens that you kind of work from. What exactly does that mean to you? And as you have continued to scale, how do you maintain that integrity within the company?
Yes. So when we first got into Whole Foods, one of the amazing things about Whole Foods is that they let brands go in and do samplings themselves. So I'm able to go in or hire, I've created a little team of brand ambassadors, which that's so powerful because I'm able to really get them to convey, all the values of our company really well. And then I'm also able to go in and get real-time feedback from all the people in our community. And it's been like so exciting. And like some of the feedback, like I didn't expect how much they would really want to champion women brands. And so there's been like really fun surprises like that along the way. But as we've grown, I've tried to replicate that because our demos in Whole Foods, I think, is one of the main reasons why we've been so successful. I mean, getting people to be able to try your coffee and communicate that the bags are compostable and that we're women owned is so powerful. So I've tried to replicate that in our marketing. So with Kroger and Walmart, they don't allow me to go in and do the demos, but they allow a team to go. So you can hire their team. So we've kind of replicated in that way. And we've just had to become really good at communicating everything about our product on paper so that they can then tell customers about it. So really big onto samplings. And then we're trying to cultivate more of a social media community as well now that we're growing. But yeah.
You brought it up, the fact that woman-owned part, and there is not a lot of woman-owned coffee companies in the entire integrity of the coffee industry. How do you think that has shaped your approach to building Beach City Coffee?
So I think it's helped me a lot. And it's something that I didn't expect, right? Because when I went into that shared roastery, there were so many men working there. You just don't think like that's going to be a value add, or you don't realize. Yeah, that's really helped us being women-owned, and also the WomenX certification. So we went and got the women-owned business certification, and that's particularly helped us, I think, open retail doors.
Right.
Because they want to know that you actually are women-owned, and that gives us that credibility.
Do you think that the way that you're leading or innovating or being creative in your roastery is actually differentiating how people, maybe other women, feel empowered to get into that industry and make coffee?
Yes. And I do think like in general, women, we do seem to care a lot more, right? So I think that like my husband, when the tariffs were hitting and all this stuff, he was like, are you sure we should still be sourcing fair trade organic coffee? Like that is the most expensive coffee there is. And I am so like value driven on this. I was like offended. And so I think that is one of the benefits of women founders, right? We are really like, if we have something that we're passionate about, we are highly likely to like execute on that and like just stay focused. So I think that's a real benefit. Yeah. And then talking about this, like women owned and women in the business, it reminds me of a story. I was recently at a food show and a broker came up to me and he was trying to pitch his broker services to me. And as I mentioned, I don't really use brokers, or I haven't yet. And he was telling me that I really would have to use his services though to get into this one retailer because they are an old boys club.
Oh, okay.
And so I would need his help. And I was like, did you just say this to me? This is like 2026. Like what? But I kind of loved that he said that. So then he ended up following up with me later. And I went to that retailer and I looked up the coffee buyer, and lo and behold, their coffee buyer is a woman. So it's clearly not an old boys club. And I actually used that and like reached out to her. I toned down the story a little bit, but I told her about it. And now we're like at the front of their review list. So I think times are changing. Like it's not an old boys club anymore.
I guess that old boys club is actually living in his head. And I mean,
yes,
that's so true. The lack of freaking like thought process and logic behind going to a woman who owns a business and being like, hey, you're going to need me because I can get you in with my pals here. Like, what?
And then, like, of course, it's a woman. I couldn't believe it. I loved it.
Well, good for you. You should send him a note once you get into that retailer to actually let him know, like, hey, by the way, the boys voted me in.
Yeah, I, of course, didn't, like, tell his name or anything either, but, like, so good.
I love that. So as you have scaled, I imagine you have grown a team at this point.
Yes.
I'd love to know kind of what have been the challenges in growing your team and what have been some of the successes? So that's been one of the biggest, I would say one of the hardest parts of growing Beach City Coffee has been the team and finding the right team. So I was really lucky very early on. The first two women I hired, they're actually still with me today. One of them was a roaster and one was a packaging or operations. She does operations for me, but it would be like some weeks we'd be working maybe 1 hour a week together. And then some weeks it would be like we'd have an order and we'd be there all night long, for like 12 or 14 hours together. And they would always just like stick with me and put in the hard work with me. They were so amazing. And then as we've grown, it makes me realize how valuable they are and amazing they are because it's been hard to find people like that. And the other thing is I had originally roasted all the coffee myself. And so
it's hard to give up that control, right? Especially with like, this is our product, this is my baby. So I want every roast to be perfect, and mistakes are going to happen. So yeah, that has been challenging. There's been some people that didn't work out, and I think you don't know until you work with somebody, and probably not for a few months, if they're going to be the right fit for you. But overall, we've been really lucky, and I have found some really good team members recently that have joined. But yeah, it takes time. And I think that's also one of the big challenges of manufacturing for ourselves, is that we have this whole other side to the business that a lot of other CPG companies don't, because they go with a co-packer. So there's, good parts and bad parts to it.
Do you think there is a difference between building a great company and making a great product, or do they both go hand in hand?
I think that there is a difference. Absolutely, there's a difference. And I would say the biggest thing I have noticed is culture is big, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're going to build you can have a great product, but if your company culture sucks. So I think, having a really good company culture is important. And I think that translates though back to the product, but right. Yeah.
Well, and ultimately your values and your mission is spearing the company and its growth. So yes. Speaking of growth, now that you are trying to get into all of these retailers, what does growth look like for you in the upcoming years?
So I always want to be really thoughtful about the way that we're growing, make sure that we can hold on to those values, mm-hmm. Always sourcing fair trade organic coffee and compostable packaging. So originally it was like saying yes to every opportunity. Now I have to be more strategic. And if I'm pitching to certain big retailers, maybe those are the only ones I pitch to, because I want to make sure that everything I'm saying I can deliver on, I deliver on. But we are coming out with our first ready-to-drink cold brew coffee, which I'm so excited about. Yes, it's we're calling it our cold brew for the coast, and we're donating 3 cents per can sold to help protect our beaches and oceans. One of the reasons I did that is obviously you can't have like a compostable can, and I really wanted to encourage the recycling of the cans. So I thought if we tied in a nonprofit aspect to it with our coastline, that might further push people to recycle the cans too. So
that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to go pitch them to the retailers. So.
Being that you just talked about culture, what do you feel are the key ingredients that goes into a strong culture for you specifically?
For me, I think really believing in myself, because if I believe in myself and what I'm doing, I can get not only the buyers, but my employees to believe in it too. And then a huge thing for me is positivity. I think positivity is infectious. It infects everyone around you. So if you're always positive, people want to be around you. They want to work hard for you. And then I try to also really listen to what they say. So I try to often gather feedback and then, really key in on it and listen so that they stick with me. Because like I said, those 2 girls from the beginning, I mean, they've made my life so much easier as we've grown, having them by my side. So
yeah, that institutional knowledge that they have is really valuable. I agree with you on positivity, but we all know as business owners that times get really tough and challenging. And so how do you ensure that you still give yourself the grace and the time to be frustrated and handle those challenging times while still maintaining that culture?
So we live by the saying at Beach City Coffee that no just means yes later. And so when you don't let the no's get you down, they really just fuel you.
You have a great story. And
thank you.
What parts of it do people usually skip over that you feel matters most and should be told?
All of the beginning, right? All of the, literally all of the beginning. I get a lot of, I've gotten this comment on social media when our product launched in Kroger. And it was, one of the comments was, I wonder how a small business like that got into a big retailer like Kroger. And it's we weren't an overnight success. We're years and years in the making. And it's so much persistence that it takes to get somewhere. So I think, lots of persistence.
I mean, not everybody can be a Pete's or Starbucks or whatever. I think coffee is getting a makeover almost, especially I follow a bunch of really good baristas on TikTok. I don't know if you know Morgan Eckroth. She's incredible in the way that she explains coffee, how to how to not how to roast it, but how to prepare it. She's very particular about the type of beans that she uses. And recently, she even explained on how to make a proper cold brew. But I think it's to the advantage of companies who are doing coffee right at the end of the day.
Yeah. And really leaning into values that people care about, right? Like, why aren't there more coffee companies with compostable packaging on the shelves?
Exactly.
And I want there to be. So,
yeah, 100%. Was there ever a point where you thought that your business wasn't going to work out?
I had a moment when COVID happened and all those offices shut down where I thought it might not work out, or I thought, but at the end of the day, I knew that I would still be roasting coffee. So, I was still going to be doing this. And I think that I think our friends and family would still be buying it. I think that Beach City Coffee will always exist at some level, even if the retail business was to disappear overnight. Like, we just love what we're doing, and we know we have something here. So
I love that. Being that you and your husband started it, it sounds like it's a lot more of you these days.
It is.
So how has it been, first of all, starting off being in business with your husband? A lot of times that can be a challenge. And then also, if I am correct, him stepping away a little bit more and you stepping into the full totality of running the business. Like, what has that transition been like?
We are an amazing team, so we work really well together. And he's been great because he has had his day job that has been able to support our family so that I don't have to take a salary from Beach City Coffee, and we're not relying on Beach City Coffee for that. So that is why he is not completely involved in the business, although he loves helping out with Beach City Coffee. But he is he's a tech guy. So he's been able to make really significant contributions to our company without being here day to day. A good example is, so once we got into Whole Foods, I went into my local Whole Foods and our coffee wasn't on the shelf. And I was like, what's going on? And it turned out that the store just didn't reorder it. And I didn't even realize that was something I would have to care about. Like, I thought that the grocery stores would just reorder the coffee. That wasn't something I had to worry about. Well, I was wrong. And so I ended up having my team, I had them calling, I had them going to stores because, if the coffee's not on the shelf for a week, that's a lot of lost revenue. Mm-hmm. And I told him about this and he's like, this is crazy. You can't be calling these stores. That doesn't make any sense. And so he ended up creating this online dashboard for me, and he tracks our product in every store every single day. And so that way I know if our product is out of stock in Whole Foods in Redondo Beach for more than 5 days, and I can give him a call and say, hey, can you please reorder? So he's been able to make really cool contributions like that that have really helped. Or like when we're going through these onboarding processes with these retailers, they're really crazy. Like, these portals are insane. And so he's been able to help. I mean, a lot of them, they'll say you have to have a broker because if you can't navigate this portal, we're not going to onboard you at the end of the day. You have to be able to navigate this portal. And it's really tricky, but he's luckily so tech savvy. He's able to do it for us or help me do it. And we save a lot of money that way. So we're a really good team. And yeah, like I said, when the tariffs were happening and our margins were getting a little tighter, and he's pushing maybe we shouldn't do the fair trade organic. So we're good because we have those conversations and it's a nice balance.
What advice would you give if anyone is listening out there who has a product sitting in their kitchen right now that they've been tinkering with, whether it's in a popcorn roaster or a popcorn popper or something else, a person who's wondering whether it could become a real brand in the future? What advice do you have for them?
I would say to test it with your friends and family. They're such a great starting point. Test it with people you know. See what feedback you get. I think that's a really great thing. And then if you're really, really passionate about it, and you're just make sure that you can go the distance with it. If it's not successful in 10 years, are you going to stop? You should ask yourself that question right now. I think, like I said before, I think a lot of people think businesses a lot of them are overnight successes. And I don't think that's generally the case. In fact, more and more, I'm hearing people winning. They've been doing it forever.
Oh, yeah. I think that this is where anything social media is not in our favor, because it makes it seem like everybody has an overnight success. You don't know someone and suddenly they show up on your feed and you're like, oh my God, this person has all of these followers. How did it happen? Well, most of the time they've been at it for years before they even get to that substantial amount of fans.
Right. Like I didn't get into Walmart by dancing in front of the coffee roaster. It was like the hard work.
Speaking of that coffee roaster and that first coffee roast that you and your husband had in your shed, what's that cup of coffee like?
Honestly, it was still so good because it was fresh. Yeah. But the funniest part was like our neighbors seeing us doing it, because like it wasn't a coffee roaster, and like coffee doesn't smell that great when you're roasting it. So they were like, "What are you guys doing in there?" But it was obviously good enough that we stuck with it, and it was a lot of fun too. So.
That's awesome. Are you thinking about at some point in time being able to white label it to help other people build their brands? Or are you strictly?
Absolutely. I would totally do that. I am very particular about fair trade organic coffee, so I don't think I would like roast anything else here besides that, but I would totally roast for other people. I think that's awesome. And I love like seeing, I know a few other women roasters that are offering courses to other women and other people. I think that's so awesome. I love that stuff. I try to offer every employee I hire the opportunity to learn to roast coffee. So yeah, I love that stuff.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
More women in coffee.
What's cool too is like a lot of the coffee buyers these days are women, and more I'm seeing are women, which is cool too. So
yeah, and I mean,
the industry's changing.
Starting a coffee, and I'm seeing it more and more as well, to where because of the popularity that farmers markets are gaining and those pop-up stores are gaining. I mean, there are kids now, their business is not going to work at Starbucks or at a coffee shop. It's their parents buying them a trailer and buying them a coffee machine. And then all they have to do is source good beans and go and make coffee on the road at those farmers market, or even like in a highly affluent part of town where there are no coffee shops. And I think that this is brilliant for just entrepreneurship in general for kids, and for them to be able to run their own business, whether it's ice cream or coffee or soda or whatever.
Yes, I so love that too.
Yeah, that's my plan for my daughter.
Oh, yeah.
I literally just got off a call with a client that runs ambulances. It's a private ambulance company, and he goes, I got something up my butt the other day, and I went online and I set up a website and I bought an LLC, and I want to convert one of our ambulances into a mobile espresso coffee truck. And he goes, I'm going to call it EM Espresso. And I was like,
that's cute.
That is awesome. Right. So it's really interesting to see how many people are just so driven by something. I mean, I know I personally try. You hear all the things about Starbucks. You get that nasty gut feeling after drinking it.
Starburnt.
Exactly. And it is hard to find the smaller companies and the brands, especially when you're trying to get those quick things that are on the road. It's like, it's really challenging. And so I would love to see more and more specialty coffee shops popping up.
I think though, the fact that like Starbucks is like, so prolific, I guess you would say, everywhere. It's helping us, I think, because now I'm going to pitch to these hotels nearby and they have Starbucks. And I know I personally, when I go stay at a hotel, if they're offering Starbucks, I'm going somewhere else. And so it's been a really great selling point for us. Hey, switch to Beach City Coffee. And people like local too. So
this episode is brought to you by Starbucks, America's favorite coffee. Just kidding. Wouldn't it be fun though?
No.
No.
Well, we just lost our endorsement.
That's funny that I was talking to I guess at Coachella this year, Starbucks sponsored it, so they didn't allow any other coffee brands. I'm like, come on, wow. Let's switch it up here.
Yeah, so. It's interesting because I mean the inkling, especially for people who own businesses, would be to support the small businesses that are around them, right? And not necessarily go to the big megalodon that is out there taking over an industry because they can and because they have the capital. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what the game is, right? You have the capital, you have the power, and so you take over. But I think the beauty of, like I was just saying, the beauty that people are going back to their grassroots and buying from the farmer or buying from the producer or trying to, if it's available, through those farmers market, through those co-ops that are popping around everyone. Like once we get to that, I think it's also going to help us with the over-consumerism that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And we're all guilty of it, right? We all waste in some way, shape, or form. Even if we try to recycle, I think I've got my compost bin is full to the brim. But I try my best not to put that back into the big trash mountain that is down the street, because that just doesn't help the environment. And if we all do it in community and forget that big company exists and go to the little guys who have, or little women who have, who have those mission and value driven companies, and that do good because you give back to the community. You just said it with your cold brew coffee, and that's amazing.
Yeah. And also fair trade gives back too. I didn't realize this. I knew, like, working with fair trade, that the producers would get, a fair price for what they were producing. But I didn't realize that on top of the fair trade price, for every pound of coffee sold on fair trade terms, 20 cents goes back to the coffee producers' community development fund that they can either use for things on their farm or they can use for the greater community. So producers that we've worked with, we've seen them build roads, we've seen them give books to a bunch of school children. And those are just the ones that I've worked with. So it's pretty cool to see, like, the impact, and especially as we scale, it's impact at scale. So it's really awesome.
I'm curious, do you actually take trips and go to your producers and get to meet with the farmers?
I am dying to. I haven't with our recent producers, but I'm dying to, and I'm working with Fair Trade to go with them on one of their trips. But yeah, it's so cool to see. We get to see photos through them of the producers, and it's so cool. And then at the World of Coffee, they have a coffee producers forum where you can talk with them. But yeah, it'd be so cool to go and actually go to the farm. I've been to some, but not to the ones that we personally worked with recently.
Yeah. And being that you're kind of at the start of your second growth trajectory, I would say. Yeah,
this really is the beginning, I think.
Yeah. What does the next 5 years look like for you? What are you envisioning for Beach City Coffee?
I'm excited to, keep growing in retail. I think we really have a strategy that works. But I want to do it, again, really thoughtfully, always being able to maintain our values. And then coming out with a cold brew. We're also coming out with a cold brew concentrate that we're launching in restaurants and hotels, which is exciting. So kind of diversifying. But long term, I would love Beach City to be a household name, kind of when you think of Folgers, you think of Folgers and home. I would want someone to think of Beach City and think of coffee that's better for people and better for the planet, and really have that. Because there really isn't a coffee brand that you immediately think of with sustainability or with being eco-friendly. And I'd love to be that brand. So
awesome. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I would imagine that your coffee tastes a little bit better than Folgers.
Way better.
That plastic can, man.
Way better. Yeah.
What do you think if I want to start a coffee business tomorrow in a industry that, in my mind, because I see coffee shops in Denver has a ton of coffee shops, and a ton of those coffee shops are also in-house roasting.
Roasters,
and so I am curious, what do you see the future of your industry looking like? And what is going to matter in the next 5 to 10 years if you want to stay at the top of your game?
So I think I touched on earlier, I think that consumers are more educated now than ever. So I think that that's one of the things that's really leaning into us becoming so successful, is that they really care about these values as much as I do. I think that I've read a lot of stats that consumers they are more likely to buy a product if it's got compostable or recyclable packaging. They want that. The demand is there. I think that, and that's great, because I think it's going to push companies to be better. companies that aren't just like me, where it's people care about it, but because they see that's what consumers want. So I see that just continuing. I hope to see like a lot more cool products that are more sustainable, better for the planet, and less Starbucks and that kind of thing, less like mass produced, where it's people aren't getting paid fairly and it's not good for the planet. So I hope that we continue in that direction. And I mean, if you think about I think about all the coffee bags I sold last year, and if all of those went into the landfill, like how heartbreaking. And so what if we could change it on a massive scale and really change the industry as a whole? We could reduce so much of that waste, and it wouldn't be that hard. So I hope that we head in that direction. That would be my goal.
Yeah.
I have a coffee question for you.
Yes.
Do you roast decaf coffee?
Okay,
yes, yeah, you know where I'm going. And is it something that is not healthy because there's chemicals used and involved to make it decaffeinated as well? So do you do something different?
Yeah. So I don't know enough about the chemicals around decaf coffee to really speak on that, but I don't currently roast decaf coffee. And here's why. Decaf coffee roasts different. It's not the same. Mm-hmm. And so when I was pregnant, I tried roasting decaf for myself so that I could drink more coffee, and it didn't taste right. I just couldn't find a decaf that I liked. And I tried several different types, and I just struck out so I would just do half and half. But I have had a lot of customers ask me for decaf coffee. So I've considered coming out with a half and half. But like I said, it's harder to roast. So
the half and half, I think, is great. Because I think of people like my dad who loves drinking coffee, but he's just at that age where he's like, I can't have a full cup of coffee without feeling the effects, right? And so it is really hard to find a good decaf coffee. So
decaf for half and half.
Even doing half and half, I think.
I was thinking that, one of the retailers that we work with actually sent out an email. They're about to have their coffee category review, and that's one of the things that they were wanting was a half calf. So,
yes.
Yeah.
There you go. A little more market research that says, yes, go for it.
Yes, totally.
Excellent.
I know your dad's not alone. I hear that a lot, wanting less.
As we are wrapping up this episode, I'm going to ask you one final question. What has Beach City Coffee taught you about who you are as a founder, not just what you can build?
I think that it's taught me just how persistent of a person I am, that I'm not willing to give up. It's also one of the wonderful things about running your business and being a founder is you are consistently having to put yourself in these little uncomfortable situations. And that's really great. It builds character. It builds confidence. What other job do you get to do that in, right? Where you're constantly put in these little awkward moments, but that they make you more confident. And I think it helps you grow as a person even. So it's good.
Well, hopefully we didn't make you feel uncomfortable as you were.
No, you guys have been amazing.
Chatting with us.
But little things like this, it's good.
Yeah. Putting yourself out there so you can have, so your story told the right way because it comes directly from you. So that's important. Jillian has been amazing. Thank you for educating us on coffee, on roasting, on the sommelier version of coffee, which remind us all what it's called.
Oh, Q grader.
Q grader. There we go. So now all the people listening to this episode are going to be so much better educated than they were coming into it, hopefully for the majority of us.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. This was fun talking with you both.
Absolutely. And for all of you listening to us on your favorite streaming app, we'll see you next week. And in the meantime, stay badass.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did recording it. If you like our show, please rate us, drop us a review on your favorite streaming app, and we'll catch you on the next episode. This was the Badass Women in Business podcast by Christy and Aggie.